What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with you all today. Major news coming out across crypto. First and foremost, Wyoming selecting Hedera for their frontier stable token. This is candidacy. The other ecosystems were already integrated. I think Hedera is the last one that got through in that first batch, which is why they're framing it as candidacy. This is the first state-issued stable token in the entire United States. This is massive. We also have the European Central Bank quietly tapping Algorand. Essentially Algorand integrated into the tip system, so like instant settlement. I was not aware of this actually, surprisingly enough, but an individual kind of dropped this, and I did a little mini deep dive today to verify it all, and it was pretty crazy what I was finding. So we're gonna go through that. XRP Ledger's first governance DAO, XAODAO, sitting alongside XRPL Commons, XRPL Labs, and Ripple at the XRP Ledger Foundation. That was a great interview I did this morning. We're going to go through some of that. XDC Network with major milestones over the past few months that we're going to be tackling. Constellation DAG ecosystem with massive milestones as well. And we're going to be tackling crazy narratives in the crypto space and insane valuations like $30,000 per XRP from a satire post that I put out earlier. So this is going to be a good one. So let's do round two of trying to record this because last time I muted myself. First out, the big headline today is coming out of Wyoming. You can see here Wyoming selecting Hedera for their frontier stable token. This is the candidacy, but essentially they've selected Hedera. The reason this is framed as candidacy is the other networks were already in when the first press release went out. But Hedera looks to be included, the first state-issued stable token in the United States. This isn't just another experiment in blockchain as we've seen over the past few years. This is fully backed by United States dollars and short-term treasuries with an extra 2% reserve for long-term stability. Interest from those reserve flows directly into Wyoming's public school system. This means that, quite literally, blockchain innovation is funding education in the United States. The Wyoming Stable Token Commission chose Hedera for its speed, low predictable fees, carbon negative footprint, unique governance model, standing as the only public network in the world governed by an entire council of global leading organizations. Now, I suggest that you guys go and do your due diligence and read through this as well. It's obviously a massive announcement. I guess first and foremost, I'll say Mance Harmon, co-founder of Hedera, reinforcing the vision here. Wyoming's selection of Hedera shows how responsible innovation can deliver real-world financial solutions, setting a precedent for other states and ultimately the world to follow. Full disclosure, Genfinity has a media relationship with Hedera. So again, I recommend you guys go and do your own due diligence with this, but a massive announcement for United States crypto adoption, a massive announcement for Hedera as well. This quite literally, again, makes Hedera part of the trust layer of not only the digital economy, but Wyoming's. Wyoming Stable Token Commission, you can go and check this out at stabletoken.wy0. They are referring to this directly as stable token, not stable coin. So issuer of the Frontier Stable Token. I want to give a huge shout out to Tata. I would say probably the best deep diver in Hedera. On a consistent basis, that is just very digging into all this stuff on a consistent basis. Anyways, he basically found the ins and outs of what the state of Wyoming Stable Token Commission selection process looks like and how different blockchains were evaluated. It looks like a lot went into this. So shout out to Tata there. I want to go through this. I did an interview this morning, and it was a pretty crazy day. I had the gas guy come and have to like undo our oven and stuff because our oven broke a few days ago, quite literally right whenever this space went live. So shout out to Santiago and Fabio from XAODAO. This is the first XRP Ledger, like the legit XRP Ledger, part of the ecosystem DAO. Now, for those that aren't aware, this sits right alongside Ripple, sits right alongside XRP L Labs and XRP Commons, or XRPL Commons, however it's referred to, as founding partners. So, when of the XRP Ledger Foundation, all on the same board. So whenever there's initiatives, grant initiatives, all this other stuff, and you see these different ecosystems and communities wanting to be a part of the conversation or wanting more transparency around what's going on, this is exactly what you're looking at. This is kind of the goal of it. This essentially means that the community now has a seat at the table at the XRP Ledger Foundation. And it was a great interview. So for those of you guys that want to go check this out, please feel free. I tried to be as comprehensive as possible. I took the community's questions that they asked me to ask into account, such as, some of the KYC stuff that was asked around payments or potential payments, decentralization versus centralization, stuff around UNL and DUNL, and if the DAO would have any say in that, which it doesn't. Essentially, this is, validators on the XRP Ledger don't have an incentive to validate, so it wouldn't be right, essentially, from this interview, what Santiago was saying, for XAODAO to step in and enforce decisions, nor I don't think would it be happening anyways. But this is a good interview. If you guys want to check it out, please feel free to do so. I also want to tackle this. So I put out a post early this morning, bullish on Ripple USD to $30,000 per coin. This is on the heels of Cointelegraph and Ripple announcing that they've expanded their stablecoin access to African institutions through partnerships with Chipper Cash, Valor, and Yellow Card. I think this is the same Valor we're going to be talking about here in a second with the XDC milestones. Anyways, first off, if you want a treasure trove of comments that'll make you giggle and smile, please feel free to read the comments section down here on this post. The entire point of this post, obviously, being that, this is a satirical post, first off. When I see a post like this, which I made this morning, it's the same thing that I think when I see an XRP post saying $30,000 per coin. Actually, an individual underneath this post was like, even if XRP were to do this, it would essentially be up in the quadrillions of dollars, which is almost all the money that exists on planet Earth right now. So it just tells you how ridiculous some of that stuff is. That being said, I'm obviously bullish on XRP. I've been holding XRP for years, but it is okay to smile in crypto every once in a while. And cool to see stablecoin adoption from Ripple, breaking down borders and barriers and all this stuff across the entire world at this point in time. I would assume Ripple USD stays pegged to the dollar. All right, I want to go through this real quick. This is more so for context that there's just a ton of adoption across all these networks, and obviously, full disclosure, Genfinity has a media relationship with the XDC Foundation. But for some context here, I wanted to give the ecosystem a shout out because I had to go through and kind of look through and check off on this article this morning before publishing. And it is amazing sometimes all of the announcements coming out. So from Binance US to Kraken to native USDC and CCTP from Circle going live on the XDC network. And I think there's less than 20 networks that have native USDC. It might be a little bit more than that, but it's not very many. To 21 shares XDC exchange traded product. You get the picture. This is literally from the very end of July. Yeah, Vert. Same entity that was in the Ripple USD announcement. Vert Capital's $1 billion tokenization plan. Shout out to Tokenizer there. It's amazing the amount of announcements that come out of these ecosystems. I think that in crypto, sometimes we're just like, oh, something's not happening or nothing must be happening because it doesn't directly I don't get that instant gratification. But at the end of the day, most of the networks that have been here for years that are trying to build something legitimately, and again, this isn't financial advice, do your own due diligence on all these projects. There's other ecosystems out there that I'm sure have all these announcements and stuff too, but I'm trying to basically provide an example or a point here. These entities and all these individuals at these entities, from experience and knowing and trying to coordinate for podcasts and stuff, they are insanely busy. 12, 14, 15-hour days. And you can tell based on these, all these announcements coming out. All right. I wanted to get into this briefly, and let's see if I can navigate this appropriately here. So this is an Algorand account, ALGO Fry, shout out. Or European Central Bank chooses Algorand for its target or tips instant payment settlement system, and ... crickets. So this is the image that he shared. And now I'm not going to go to the YouTube video because I don't want to get flagged for copyright. But here's the image that he shared. So I'm like trying to find this image. This is the tips hashlink proof of concept. So as some of you guys may be aware, I do have the ability still a little bit to deep dive. First off, you can do a targeted search and you can see advanced target searches with DLT transactions. This is the European Central Bank and central bank money. This is more recent. Not a whole lot there though, right? Now you get into, again, the operation could be performed by the buyer asking the HLC, this is the bottom in the footnotes, address to the seller, or using distributed ledger technology tricks. For example, in Algorand, the address could be computed by the buyer compiling the HLC in the same way the seller does, et cetera, et cetera. So this is protocol phases, description, trade phase. Again, tips hashlink protocol description. You can see right up here at the top. I wonder when this, I'm trying to think of when this, okay, so this is DLT network. I want to share, I'm going to go deeper here, so bear with me. But let me go up to the top here. When was this? This is 2023 Bank of Italy, right? Some of these newer documents still reference Bank of Italy. Tips hashlink protocol, I think that's a duplicate one. You have tokenizer here, tips hashlink solution. And I found some more stuff here. I actually found his original image. But anyways, check out Tokenizer's post. They've taken these slides by the European Central Bank, say all you need to know on there stands for DLT. They've taken the tips hashlink solution by Algorand and Bank of Italy into their wheelhouse. On top of this, we know EU Commission backs both ISO TC307, which I think was literally authored by Gilbert Verdian of Quant, and SATP by Quant, et cetera, et cetera. The graphic is exactly the same, and you can see Tokenizer's posts here. Let me keep moving. Tips hashlink service description. It's not this one. I think it's this one. Here we go. And here's the document that we wanted to find from the beginning that he tagged. He tagged us in underneath. So actors of a cross-ledger delivery versus payment. Seller owns assets on the Algorand distributed ledger tech, wants to sell them to buyer for an agreement amount in cash. The cash leg resides on a separate ledger, e.g., or for example, on the tip system. It's pretty crazy. And I think this is like maybe only a year and a half old, 2 years old. They're framing it as an experiment, but these other, some of these newer documents, I'm pretty sure cross-referenced back to, had like a direct footnote back into this original Bank of Italy document. You guys can probably trace the rabbit hole back, but this Bank of Italy document is gigantic. It has like 110 pages of Algorand hits. You get the picture here. So this isn't like anything small potatoes. I mean, you don't just have, I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to think if I remember any other blockchains that just like had direct proof of concepts with tips. And I'm sure that maybe there are some, but I've not really seen a study from a central bank that has went this far into detail. Mercati infrastructure, payment systems, integrating DLTs with market infrastructures, analysis of proof of concept for secure delivery versus payment between tips and DLT platforms. You can keep going down the rabbit hole. Here's where it was. Okay, so this is European Central Bank document, and this is what I wanted to share. And in the footnotes where it says, let me see if I can blow this up for you guys. Oh, shoot. Please refer to the Bank of Italy publication, Integrating DLTs with Market Infrastructures, Analysis and Proof of Concept for Secure DVP versus Tips and DLT Platforms. That's this document. So this is this document with 110 Algorand hits. And you have footnote 2, and there's your ISO 20022 fans. Where's footnote 2? Okay, here's footnote 2. As the name suggests, this solution has been successfully experimented. So Algorand Tech has been successfully experimented by the Bank of Italy with a platform based on the Target Instant Payment System, or TIPS, making an instantaneous delivery versus payment transaction possible on a 24/7 basis. And that is footnote 2, and they are directly referencing all of the work that was done with Algorand. So massive, massive shout out to Algo Fry here at Moonbase Algo. I definitely, like, I have not seen this document before or this trail of stuff before. And you can tell just based on my messy compilation of stuff here that I had to kind of go down the rabbit hole myself to find it, because I definitely don't want to get flagged for, copyright stuff by sharing a YouTube video. But that is massive. European Central Bank. This TIPS hashlink service description doc came out in 2023. I think some of these other more generic ones where they're like, hey, this could just happen with blockchain, are probably more recent, but all the work's been done on Algorand. And, I think maybe if you're a sleuth, you can maybe figure out if some of that stuff has continued on or not. So really cool deep dive. For those that aren't aware of how big Target Instant Payments Settlement is, it's European market infrastructure for instant payments. 2024, the volume of payments settled through TIPS saw a significant increase. 1.3 billion instant payments transactions settled, an increase of 46.3% over 2023. The total value of payments processed through TIPS reached $1.5 trillion, or I'm sorry, 1.5 trillion euros in 2024, an increase of 87.1% over the previous year. And a huge shout out to the Constellation ecosystem. Again, disclaimer, Genfinity has a media relationship with Constellation, so do your own due diligence. But I did an interview with them yesterday, and I think they have a lot of unique stuff going on. And this is just purely from a tech standpoint, because I've kind of been able to watch, like metagraphs or like essentially layer 1 networks go live on top of Constellation and what that could represent. Or what that does represent, what they've been able to do there. And this was all the way back at the tail end of 2023, into kind of a renewed vision for the way that metagraphs are going to impact the entire ecosystem, or metanomics, and where they went down that path. And the DEX has kind of always been that like finish line, I guess. Not finish line, but I guess, tying all this stuff together. Panasonic North America, Common Crawl, who essentially is like an archive of the entire internet, 9.7 petabytes. All the 97 or 98% of the AI large language models use Common Crawl data, and they have a metagraph. Anyways, I did an interview on the DEX, and I thought it was a really interesting interview because, number one, Constellation has had to do this very grassroots. They've been gatekept from centralized exchanges and other things, and they've done the work and integrated with like Base. You can actually look at Upsider, which is a metagraph on Constellation, and it's top 3 or top 4 agentic AIs on all of the Coinbase Base network, like on all the network. And this DEX going live, which is its own layer 1 network. So, you have essentially decentralization in and of that, because individuals can validate the DEX. Like they can validate the layer 1 network that is the DEX. And then there's like all sorts of interesting stuff. And I don't want to like ramble on, but I definitely think it's a pretty cool interview. And I think that it is a lot different than what we see on a lot of other networks. And I always kind of appreciate the contrarian stuff, regardless of the media, relationship Genfinity has. I've done so many of these interviews with so many networks over the past 3 years that it's very obvious when people are doing stuff different, regardless of any sort of media relationship. And these guys have done stuff differently, and it's, I'm hoping that they succeed with all this, because it's pretty wild to watch what they've accomplished, kind of very grassroots-ish. But this volume actually in the first week, I think this is just 7 days, and it launched last Wednesday. They've either hit $1 million in a week or are very, very close. So really just, kudos to that entire team. Anyways, Wyoming selecting Hedera for Frontier stable token candidacy is absolutely massive. Not only for Hedera, but for the entire kind of United States, this is the first state-backed, state-issued stable token, and you essentially have Hedera sitting alongside. Let me see if I can find it somewhere. I'm not going to look for too long, I promise, because I don't. 7 blockchains. This, I think, will become 8 with Hedera. Shout out to Tata. All these interviews that we're doing, I hope you guys, I'm sure some of you guys are watching them. Summer of XDC, all these announcements coming out. Anyways, there's just a lot of, I'm still not used to these views. These views suck on this thing. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Thanks. Bye.